Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic session, or what is actually truly a masterclass, actually, that doesn't cost you anything to attend, with a fantastic guest that's going to introduce him in a bit. Before we're going to kick off, we're going to wait for a minute or two for everybody to tune in. We had literally over 1,000 people registering across LinkedIn, YouTube, and X to be actually joining in. It's not a surprise, especially with having such a guest on the show today and talking about, something that matters a lot in sales, which is process. And because naturally, a lot of folks do struggle with a very strong process. I typically say, back in my days at Google, which is when I learned how important process is, my boss back then, as part of the onboarding, used to say, there's only three things that matters when it comes to running a really good org. That's people, so having the right people, right? And Sabir is very knowledgeable on that topic as well. Two is process, so having a strong process in place, and then tech, right? So tech meaning, I built some tech, there's other tech companies out there building good tech, etc., right? So these are the three things that matter, and we're going to be diving specifically into all things when it comes to process and having a solid process, because a lot of things have massively changed over the last few years. And so I had to invite an expert on this topic. So everybody that's tuning in across YouTube, X, and LinkedIn, please do say where you are tuning in the world. What title do you have right now? So are you a head of growth? You're an entrepreneur, or a founder, CEO? Who are you actually? So it's good for us to then try and go into the right direction, essentially, when it comes to the process specifically. And then what is the challenge that you have when it comes to actually orchestrating what I would describe a best-in-class process for your organization? What's holding you back today? Is it the fact that you don't know how to use Cloud Code, or is it the people? What's holding you back from having a stellar process? And then along the way, as we're progressing over the next 30 minutes, we have a lot of good stuff, a lot of good content prepared for you guys. Over the next 30 minutes, once you see some of the good stuff that Sabir is going to be showing to us, feel free to put it in the chat, in the box, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. We see all the comments, all the questions, and we're going to be taking all the questions at the end. So yeah, quick intro on myself. Frank Saunders. I run a company called Salesforge. If you don't know what we do, you can just go to salesforge.ai. We do a lot of cool things when it comes to sending great emails across email and LinkedIn. So all on that topic front, we also run an AI SDR. And that's really all I want to say about myself. If you're wondering who I am, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. And that's all I'm going to say. Sabir, over to you, please.
Hey, Frank, such a great intro. Yeah, really excited about it, about the topic itself. And we're going to go and dive deeper into processes, how to optimize sales today. And I want to actually show you just a couple of slides as well, like what's going to happen today, so that you have a better visibility about how we'll be today organized in terms of presenting you what's working well in sales today. Can you see my screen right now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So yeah, just quick about agenda. Today we're going to talk about AI sales engine that books 10 to 14 calls daily, and even more. It's considered for each person that is working, and literally getting 10 times more outputs per person. And so far we booked over 5,000. It wasn't 10,000, 15,000 with our clients, qualified appointments, and how you can get those results also for your company. Then we will talk about the closing, because once you start booking appointments, let's say you book like 10, 20, or 30 appointments on a weekly basis, you need to convert them to the clients who are paying you. So it makes no sense to book hundreds of appointments and not closing them at the end. And what are the processes that will help you understand, okay, how can we convert those people? What are the standard operational procedures to make your sales efficient in terms of closing? And the next really important point is also hiring and also building the systems, which we will touch very quickly. For most of you, maybe it's not super relevant topic at this point, but once it becomes relevant for you, so that you can use that system as well. And the next will be scaling prospecting with the personalized outreach. We will be talking about how to use the Clay system, different tools to make outbound system and avoid manual outreach in sales, which is in 2026. Is just really a waste of time. And how you can clone actually yourself with the AI systems and buy back your time. It's especially very important for people who are CEOs running the companies, or maybe in C-level position, and want to replace those hours with more efficient work. So that's about agenda in general. So where are you based? Can we see it? Where are the people based, Frank, or not really?
No, we can't see it from there. So, guys, again, just a quick reminder that I did in the beginning of the session. Please do jot down where you are tuning in from in the world, whether you are in the US, in Europe, and then what is it that you do, and any specific challenges that you have when it comes to running a stellar process in an organization. Any challenges that you have, please put down in the comments so we can see where you're tuning in from. We are definitely live. I checked that on my end. Just people are typically shy as the first ones, So
yeah, I get it. Okay, we can check it later then. That's totally fine. So for all of you guys who are live, especially those who are live, so don't come to me after saying like, oh, I looked at the replay and I want to get this freebie or this training. But everyone who will be live, I have a gift for you. So this is something that we sold in our program as well, who people actually paid for this, not only for this, but program itself as well. And I'm going to give you the training where I explain what are the 17 most common mistakes in sales that entrepreneurs make. And you can read about these mistakes, and there is a way out from each of these mistakes as well you can use for your sales processes. That will be done. And who is Sabir Nagif, you're probably asking. So I have so far helped over 1,000 companies to scale with our team, with the team of Chrysalis, and was at TEDx 2 years ago. Was published on HubSpot, WealthInsiderBusiness.com, have 14 years of sales business experience, generated over 50 million revenue for clients. I personally closed over 10 millions when I was a sales rep back then, and managed over 500 sales teams. So this is during the entire process, and coached over 5,000 people, including entrepreneurs, sales reps, all together, and scales companies from 5 to 6 figures and even 7 figures a month. So all this didn't start that way, of course. I started as many years ago in just a simple sales position. I was like just in a normal junior position when I just started in sales. I remember like it was 10 years ago or something like that approximately. And once I started my business, I was also very stressed because once I transitioned from the person who is working in the company and then started my own company, I noticed, okay, this is a very high level. And here I need to build the systems, processes. Because what happens is actually I started doing like small trainings for people and getting some first experience. And everyone is starting from there. And it has grown right now to many masterminds all around the world, and also to big stages. So generally speaking, you're going to learn everything that I have applied also for my company and companies that we worked for. And this masterclass will be mostly for entrepreneurs, new founders, self-employed, business owners, coaches, experts, sales leaders, so that you can apply these sales processes for yourself. Okay. So there are typically two types of entrepreneurs. Type A entrepreneur is typically a person who is booking like 1-2 appointments per week. Doing manual outreach, closing rate is struggling because you have long sales cycles and spending 16 to 18 hours a day. I'm not sure if we can see any comments. I wanted to ask, like, if someone is feeling that way, just put the comment there, say A, so that we know. I've been there as well. I can say personally, I was spending hours and being inefficient in the systems as well. And I transitioned to the entrepreneur currently, like, I think last month we booked 250 appointments. Like, this data is even a little bit outdated, just with a very lean team, you know. And this is somewhere you can get as well. And once you start booking that amount of appointments and you improve your closing rate, systemize it, then you get really good results in terms of scaling. Okay, so what happened is actually when I started, it was me when I was stressed out, working long hours. And then I transitioned to the person B with the system processes. This happened exactly because of that, nothing else. And I could build my team processes that helped me to scale after that. So the typically is old way of doing sales is finding the leads manually. So maybe any of you is doing right now as well. Like, if you want to find any of the leads, you go to LinkedIn or you try to find it via Apollo or other tools, which is mostly done also manual way. And spending literally hours to find all that and research about them, know what they do. So because you want to write a personalized message, and then typing the messages itself. So we calculated along these 3 steps: finding leads, researching them, writing messages. It takes typically hours. So normally one sales rep can write 50 to 60 personalized messages in a day, which is very, very time consuming. So now imagine about the following up with them. So if you follow up, update the CRM, schedule the meetings, create reports, total time is around 200 yeah, 200 hours per 1,000 leads. So it's extremely time consuming, right? But it shouldn't be that way, because there is a new way of doing the things, which is how to do that with AI, with the things that typically we see. Also, AI is doing way better job than sales reps. If a sales rep goes to the website and doesn't understand the concept, AI typically doesn't do this kind of mistakes, right? So we saw teams going from manual outreach to the AI-based outreach. They were getting 2-3 times better results. I'm not sure how about you, Frank, if you saw that as well, maybe across any of your clients, anyone who went from old way of doing sales to new way, you still saw even better results.
I mean, yeah, most of the folks are, transitioning, especially these days, to either a lot of, new gen tooling. Essentially, there's a lot of legacy tools in the space and a lot of legacy process. So a lot of companies that we see are still in that, old school mindset, using old school tools, having a lot of headcount. But also at the same time, I think they're struggling to transform. Transformation in the company doesn't matter how big or small you are. There's a bit of you need to kind of shift your mindset to how you think about things. Even the idea, imagine you have 20 sales reps. Like imagining getting down from 20 sales reps to 5, you have to think this through. Okay, so if I'm going to lose 15 sales reps out of 20, like how am I going to compensate this? And what is the new setup in terms of kind of the software, whatever, the stack or the process actually looks like? For a lot of people, it's very, very hard to imagine that there is a different way to do this. So even though you did outline this in the slide, and this is actually, true for most of the cases, the problem is, I'm used to predominantly, on all things on the right-hand side, but I think still a lot of businesses, at least 50% are still on the left-hand side, essentially. And then there's a lot of businesses in between, and then the new way of doing things is about 5% maybe of total companies, 10% maximum, somewhere in that range. So yeah, most of the folks are still doing the old way, just doing the things. But also knowing how to use these tools and the pros and how to implement the process is not it's not the easiest thing. I would say so, right? So
yes, it's really not easy. Like until you start understanding it, it takes literally months sometimes. Like for us personally, when we started implementing AI systems, it took us around 3 months as well. But it shouldn't take for people also. Like when we implement it for clients, it takes a couple of weeks, as we already know how it works and we have all SOPs. But generally speaking, yes, it is not that easy too, but there are ways to accelerate these processes too. So mainly, like when you use the new way, like you mentioned very well, Frank, in between is also a gray zone, because in between is also still better than old way, right? But how to get to the best way? What is the best of the best way? Imagine the way where you have like lead generation system that works itself and it's super well connected with all the tools that you have. Imagine auto research is doing like research itself and sending out messages without you even being involved to that, right? Or smart sequences, follow-up sequences. Typically, people also forget about following up with somebody, and most of the money is in follow-ups. Like I see it from the last 14 years of in sales, like people who we are closing immediately in the first meeting or second is like 10 to 20% max, right? And the rest, like from the follow-ups, like saying, "Hey, let's reconnect again. Things are changing after a couple of months." But lots of people don't use that too. They just say, "Oh, okay, the deal was not closed and everything is finished." So, how to synchronize all this infrastructure so that you don't spend a lot of time and you can spend time only for the things that matter most, which means taking the closing calls if you or your team is doing, or focusing on the strategy, hiring people, growing your company instead of manually reaching out to people, right? Having the dashboards, this point is really, really important, because if you have the visibility on your processes and your numbers, if something doesn't work the way you want, you can know what exactly doesn't work. And then you can focus on that. So all the KPIs that you have, if you have it live, and going without you putting any information into that, if you understand what is not working well, you can immediately react to that.
When it comes to dashboarding, maybe what's your typical go-to? Is that Looker Studio, or what do you use in terms of dashboarding?
So what we do is like there are different tools for doing that. Some people just take it from the different tools and they know that, okay, like it can be the tools itself, like, already instantly or HeyReach, and then synchronizing it to the live dashboard. Dashboards can be different, but we personally use right now the dashboard that is showing live everything. It's very custom built. So, but there are a lot of different options also in the market.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. On our end, we use Looker Studio to push all the data from I would say Salesforce into HubSpot and things like that. So
yeah, it can be also in CRM. So like reporting system where you can see. I apologize. I need to shut this off. So yeah. Also within the CRM is one of the best options. So depending which CRM you use, you can do that. So previously we did for clients also with the Excel. So just getting the all data automated way to the Excel dashboards and showing from there. But Excel is typically can be also deleted, which is like not guaranteed, and it's not the best option. No. Okay, cool. So we're going to discover 3 things today. First, AI-powered lead engine. So that's the very first step, how to generate the leads. The second thing is how to scale without ads or big sales team, and how to convert yourself with, how to clone yourself with the AI systems. So these are the 3 things that we will discuss mainly today, and I'm going to show you exactly how it works so that you can improve your systems. So, around AI, there are a lot of news happening right now. Like, for example, CEO is NVIDIA. He said, like, we are going to the new industrial revolution. Everybody is speaking about new industrial revolution, which is coming with the help of AI. Everything is changing. Like Mark Zuckerberg, he invested 600 billion US invested into that. Amazon is heavily investing. Bill Gates is heavily investing. And this is a sign because the industry is growing and lots of people think it's just the bubble, but it's actually not, because lots of things are changing. Even though, like, I know within the sales, alone within the sales, there are lots of things that are changing and sales becomes way more efficient. I remember like 1 year ago, we were still doing lots of things manual way, and now AI replaced almost everything. And I saw personally just 4 or 5 months ago, we had some clients who went from 10 sales reps to 2 sales reps, just focusing on the entire system and taking the cost. So you don't need to have huge sales teams anymore. You can have really very lean team and make way more revenue than before. And it gives advantage.
I would love to replace myself as well, Sabir. If there's any trick, or anything that you can teach me, how can a CEO replace himself? That would be also great. I would love to be like a chairman, or like some supervisor. On the
I think in general you're very advanced, Frank, in this topic. But there are some people who don't use any of this, like literally reaching out on LinkedIn, and they had like 10 sales reps, everyone manually reaching out to people. And there are so many enterprise level companies too. They have like 1,000 sales reps. I know those companies personally. They have thousands of.
There's also like a basic problem I think that exists. You talked about hiring a bit right now as well. So part of kind of hiring kind of goes also into the process. But like I even ask people like, hey, do you use ChatGPT? And there's still a lot of people in the labor market, they don't use ChatGPT on a daily basis to make their jobs either easier, faster, better, etc. So you have what we call the problem with having AI native employees in the business, which is a default expectation in a lot of companies like ours and many other companies. So if you're just kind of doing things manually, or like you can kind of sense from the people, that they're not AI native as well, the way they talk, or when you're gonna give them a problem, if they're not even gonna mention like using one of the LLMs, that's it already failing when it comes to answers actually to the questions in the hiring and kind of how you think about process or like journey process. So I think that's the struggle that I still see as a CEO journey in the labor market, and why it's also hard then to implement a very good process if the employees or like the people that are meant to support that process, right, are not AI native themselves, So
Yes. And the great thing is about that, like I can explain you a little bit on a nutshell as well. What we do currently works really well. Like we recently hired a couple of setters, like appointment setters to book appointments. They also manage the system as well. So what we did is just having those specific videos for specific processes. And the rest is like, there are also some books about that saying like, if employees are not doing the work, it's either they don't have interest to do that or they don't know how to do that, right? Like maybe there is third option, I don't know, but mainly I see these two reasons: either they don't want to do or they don't know how to do it. So what we do on our side is always providing them those SOPs and making sure, hey, is this clear? And then do that. So one thing works really well for us, like to be just sure that somebody did this job well, I just say, hey, let's do it in the call. We do it in the call, and then I say, okay, can you do this same task without me and do the Loom video and send me over to make sure that you did it well? And once it's done, after that, that person totally understands, okay, because didn't ask any questions and could do already. And that's super cool. After that is maybe like they know, but they don't do it. So yeah, it's a different topic how to how to do to make people actually do that. But typically, like if the process is clear, it's really easy also for people too. So the big idea is you don't scale sales by working harder. So working harder doesn't help right now. I will tell you why. Because your competitors now, those who are using AI, they have a full advantage over you. And even if you work harder, you hire more, you lose the advantage anyway. Yeah, because we cannot compete with AI. AI can send 1,000 personalized messages a day. We cannot do that, but AI can do it. So that's why those who don't use AI, they lose a lot of money on the table. So there are 4 levels of sales. So if you see any of those, you just comment 1, 2, or 3, 4, and I will walk you through what are the typical levels. So level 1 is time-wasting outreach. So you spend a lot of time the whole day reaching out to people, sending random messages, sometimes just copy and paste. I see a lot, like same message, copying and pasting the same people without personalizing it because you don't have time, right? Like you want to reach out to more people as well. These are the typically people who are stuck in the first level. And here, the thing is that, if you have a lot of calls, what happens typically? You book a lot of calls and then you have full calendar and you don't have time to reply back to people. So this is like a hamster wheel that you create for yourself if you don't use AI. So that's level 1. Second is partial systemization, which Frank already mentioned, like people who are in between, right? So you have a lot of tools, a bit of processes, maybe you use a little bit Sales Navigator or Heyreach or a couple of tools, but you didn't automate everything, right? You couldn't automate everything that you could, but still it's better than level 1. And then there is that third level, which is systemized sales. You follow proven workflows and frameworks. So there is a clear process that outreach becomes very consistent. So you don't book like 10 appointments one day and another week you book 5 appointments and then 0. No, because otherwise you will have revenue roller coaster, which means 1 month will be very good because you generated a lot of appointments and then you try to close them. And as you were busy with the closing and you generated less appointments, you couldn't get more appointments for the next month. So sales is more cyclical. And to keep it always predictable and make revenue predictable, you need to book appointments predictably as well. Okay. Yeah. And there is a level 4 systemized sales infrastructure where this is like one of the highest levels. By the way, if you are 4, you are probably like top 1%. So this is typically people who have the entire infrastructure, working with all the tools that are optimized and interconnected with each other. And it builds the infrastructure working very well, employees, and with the help of AI and tools all together, so that there is nothing more to improve in your system in terms of processes. So that's highest level that you can achieve in terms of levels of sales. And that is the level when 2026, it's really easier to get to because you have every single tool, every single AI automation to get to that level as well, right? So if you become really good in automation, what I see as well, that people have challenges in the closing side of things. So imagine if you build both of them and well interconnect with each other, that's where you will get the maximum efficiency. Okay, Frank, where do you feel you are right now? I assume 4.
100% number 4, probably number 5 that you haven't mentioned. No, like I'm missing where the AI agents. I run over 10 AI agents, in the business. So apart from SOPs, I don't think I have a lot of SOPs. If I'm very honest, I think like SOPs are important, but at the same time, if the machine is well-oiled means, you have a lot of NA10 workflows. Essentially, a lot of things are, automated. You feel like the machine is running itself. So you can build that experience if you have a lot of NA10 workflows running or make.com workflows, etc.
Yes.
And then you have a lot of agents in the business. And so once you are in let's call it level 5, I think level 5 for me is top 1%, is when you have a lot of things fully automated, a lot of AI agents running in the business, then that is what we call top 1%. And most businesses are not. Like 99% of businesses, I actually do not know a business. If I'm very honest, I do not know a business that I have met and we spoke and I looked at the system that is actually more sophisticated than what we do right now. I bet they are, like Lovable, etc. It's not like, I dig into their, systems, but like it's very rare to see companies that are very, very advanced in terms of what they do. Because they do a lot, but it's still a lot of what I call, they just have a CRM, they just have, some tools for, doing the outreach. They have, very good processes, but that's not top 1% for sure. But it's much better than using the legacy approach of hiring gazillions of salespeople, and then plowing ahead and making, just having, sales headcount as the main lever to attainment, right, in terms of pipeline or revenue. But you definitely start to see a shift where sales teams more and more on average are leaner and meaner. That's the most important, I would say, in the industry right now. And that's through the acceleration of LLMs, new gen softwares, and the fact that the software can do a 10x output today versus a legacy software that was hindered by number of bodies that were operating that software, right? So today, I think nobody's thinking about the number of bodies that you need to have in the system to actually get to your targets, right? So there's a lot of people that make millions of dollars, and there's like 1, 2, 3 people in the company, So these days.
Yeah, the only thing where you need people is closing. Like mainly level 4 is everything is well interconnected with agents or whatever. It's included in automation or N10 make all the tools, but mainly in level 4 people, they just take the sales calls that are already also qualified. You don't even need to take unqualified meetings too. You can make the qualification process within social media or emails or any other channels as well, asking them questions. For example, hey, is this highest priority for you right now? Hey, do you have any budget allocated for this? Is this project something that you're looking to, or is it for the future? This kind of like qualification, if you want to improve your closing rate, we do that for as well in our system, for example. That's definitely recommended too. So when you start the module 1, right, like first step is always getting the leads. So we have different methods for that. First is sourcing, AI lead sourcing, which can sound very, very technical for you. Like, okay, very technical for those people who don't know what sourcing means, is just getting the list of people, like how to find those people, who they are, by using like tools like Clay, and then reaching out to them with the flywheel system through emails, social media, and then having the synthesis, which means, okay, we connected all the channels together and all they work and produce the results. So another thing in the content machine, because we have outbound and inbound, right? This is more like for outbound, but for the inbound is like you get, for example, you have a freebie like this, and you get a lot of comments on them, and how to bring those people, like some people, they just get so much engagement, but they cannot even reply back to them. But how to engage with them and warm up them so that you can bring them back to the closing, right? So nurturing with the YouTube. So what we typically also do, we bring all these people to the community, and then they can watch different YouTube videos and know your world, right? If you sell, let's say, tech products, you might think, oh, I don't need school community or something, but still you do need, because the world is changing to that direction too. So people typically now are going into direction of YouTube or school communities, any other communities where they start discussing, right? And then booking the call.
I think, I think the other thing that people need to kind of take into account is, like, as more of the AI on automation kind of exists, there's definitely the human connection that also gets accelerated in terms of the demand, right? So I think events are definitely rising, as a result. And the need to connect with different other users on the same topic is also like super important. Yeah. So like a school community, or I run a WhatsApp community. I think so. Like you kind of have to think about, the fact that, the more AI exists and the more humans are going to see more AI stuff, the more they want to have these sort of also human connections that you also need to accommodate from a kind of how do I cater for that, right? So, and actually building out the community, I think, is one of the great ways to really cater for that human demand, while you still do a lot of the agentic or AI stuff, right? So when it comes to acquisition, so yeah.
Yes, definitely. It's also building trust, right? And I
Yes.
like about your communities as well. You have huge communities and it's very active there. People already trust each other, and anything you need, people help each other. That's really great. And imagine you stay you are managing entire community, and people will be grateful to you that you created something like that. And that's why typically buying from you will be way easier than just reaching out on LinkedIn and saying, hey, do you want to buy my solution, right? That makes the process itself long-term way more efficient than typical direct outreach as well, right? So it doesn't mean that direct outreach doesn't work. It works really well. Some people have demand and they look for the solutions immediately. But on a long term, there will be a lot of people who will say it will not have trust, or it will not be priority. But eventually, if you have that flywheel within your systems, you can bring people and literally close anyone in a long term. Like anyone can buy something from you. Like those big names also in the industry, I know just from the consulting side of things, like Russell Brunson. Like Russell Brunson says, like anyone in the US needs to buy something from me. So that's the goal. Like, imagine anyone can buy something from you. If you're in Europe, like you can put the goal, anyone in Europe will buy at least something from me.
That's how I feel, with running 7 different products right now. If you need to generate pipeline, actually the only thing that we don't do is calling. That's coming actually on our end. But otherwise, everything else when it comes to pipeline building, we're pretty feeling good on that. So yeah, we're also trying to become the Richard Branson of the pipeline building world.
Actually, calling is so important in Flywheel. If you have, like, we just added calling, like I think 1 year ago, we added also warm calls to the pipeline, because lots of people, they like get AI messages or lots of messages via LinkedIn, and they don't have time to remember what conversations they had, right? And they reply back, they say it's interesting, and then they forget about it. So what we started doing is just reaching out people after they reply back and saying, hey, do you remember, like, you talked to my colleague? Oh, let's book a meeting right now. What is your biggest challenge? Asking just a couple of questions and warm up people and say, look, man, I see your challenge. I'm going to send you like a training. Just watch it before coming to the call. Just provide value. And this like helped us to increase our closing rate way more. We started booking like 70-80% more appointments than before, just with that process. Yeah. So that's why I would recommend. Tell me what's going to happen. I'm really curious about your processes as well. Okay. So yeah, you can see a lot of people also replying back. Once you build your messaging really well, once you nail, you can see these replies are coming back from people typically. Like, it's one of the best openings I have read. Well done. So how we get this kind of replies is mainly like positioning. First positioning, we look, okay, how we can position you in their inbox or in their sales in the sales process in a different way, because lots of people reach out to them with the similar messages. And how can you break the pattern? You can interrupt the pattern. So where we are mostly paying attention is how to personalize message so well, how to describe pain so well that they say, this is exactly what I need, right? Or this is something that I need to know about. So you
do you do a lot of kind of on a contact level or account level? Do you kind of extract context on the company and then you engage only then, or what's your process like?
Yeah, very good question. So the strategy is mainly identifying 3 different layers, like let's say 3 different industries, right? Every industry has specific pain points, and we start describing that pain point in a very, very deeper level, right? So that people feel immediately, oh, like lots of people write back. Like I know one of our clients, his name is Vidar, he's from UK, and he got a lot of messages, people saying like, Vidar, how did you know I have exactly these problems right now? Like lots of replies like this, And if you do the groundwork, it's like 90% of the work. If you do it really well and think a lot about what kind of messaging I want to write and how I want to describe the pain, so that if you describe pain well, you know what is the secret sauce? If you describe pain well, people will think you have the best solution for that pain.
Yeah.
So
A friend of mine from Australia always used to say, no pain, no gain, no demo train. As in, if there's no pain, there's nothing to gain, and there'll be no demo as well at the end of it.
yeah, sure. So once you build that infrastructure, like it can be very well automated, by the way. Like step one, getting appointments can be very well automated. Up to 90% can be automated. But the second process is really hard to automate, I have to say. Like closing process, what you can do, you can use standardized processes, which can help you to get predictable results, which means, let's say Frank is owner, and I know, Frank, you already have some sales reps, but imagine you hire a new sales rep and you give them the same process that you use. If it's very well standardized, and I assume it is because you have very well standardized process, those sales reps can pick up really fast and start closing at similar level as you would do as well, on a very predictable manner. So what is really important to pay attention to is to identify first, okay, what are the questions that you need to ask them to identify the pain, to understand the pain a bit deeper level. It's like going to the doctor, right? Like when you go, it's normal that doctor asks you some questions to understand what is your main issue and then write the prescription. So some people say prescription selling.
Yeah.
So first, what are the standardized questions to understand the pain, and then pre-handling the objections. So typically what happens, it's very, very high level of the sales, I have to say, like most people even don't know about this, but you start knowing in the process of discovery, what are the typical objections can come up after the pitch. So typically what happens is, this is, by the way, very, very high level stuff. Like this is something I'm sharing with 20K mastermind with the people, but keep this and try to use that for your processes as well. So when you see people typically saying you, for example, oh, I had this problem, then you start asking, okay, why you didn't solve this problem before? What was the main reason? So what they say, oh, I didn't have time. So that will be the typical objection that will come also after pitch. They will say, oh, I don't have time right now. Let's speak in 6 months, right? Or any other objection. They say, for example, hey, it was not priority for me. That's why I didn't change processes. And the same objection typically comes also after the pitch, saying, oh, it's not priority. Let's speak like after 6 months. So what you can do, how you can impact that within the discovery, you can actually pre-handle those objections and start handling them there, because it's not obvious for the prospect to understand what are you doing right now. If you do it after pitch, if after pitch they tell you, I don't have money for that, and they start asking what typically sales reps do, they say like, oh, okay, what about like your budget? Like you don't have any budget for this? Or for example, I don't have time for this. Oh, okay, why you don't have time for this? And it's obvious that you handle the objections because you want to close them, right? But the thing that happens with pre-handling objections, prospects don't understand that you are doing that. Yeah. So if you start asking them when they say, okay, I didn't have time to solve it, and you start challenging them saying, hey, how much does it cost? Like, how much did it cost to you, like 6 months having this challenge and not solving it? Oh, it costs me too much, They start to open up because you didn't pitch them anything yet. They start to open up and saying, oh, man, like this cost me so much, like maybe like 100K, 200K at least, because I left a lot of opportunities on the table. And that already solves the objection that will potentially come after the pitch. If it comes again, it's just like, hey, John, like you mentioned that it costs you 100K right now in a month not to solve this problem. You remember our conversation, right? Yes, but what changed since then? And then they start feeling like, oh, okay, I'm telling something against what I said just 15 minutes ago. So this is a very high level, sales tactic that you can use without feeling pushy as well in the closing process. And if you did everything well until that point, until your pitch and pre-handling objection, then objections are usually not coming, or they come in a very soft form, saying, for example, oh, what's going to be potential ROI for me? How can you make sure that we can get those results, etc., which is like more fear objection. Right. Yeah. So imagine if you have all these processes standardized for your sales, every single objection that can come up, you have answer for that. Every single, every single concern, every single scenario, which is very important, can come up. You have answer for that. So if somebody says, let's speak in 6 months, you know what you need to do after that.
Yeah, I
And
have only three things, I guess, to just to add
yes,
here. Maybe
sure.
one of them that I typically like to say, because I've been also an account exec, typically number one in the leaderboard, whatever. But you're trying to preemptively sort of answer the questions that they would ask you anyway, right? So where by the end of it, literally the prospect has no questions. So I typically like to joke, either I did a good job or a bad job, so one or the other, and typically the good job, because there's no question because you have answered them before they were thinking about even asking it. So that's one thing. The other thing I like to do, and I think it's a good practice in a lot of businesses, but we have not implemented this, but I think it's a very good thing, which is by the end of it, whatever is it that you're presenting, whatever you're talking about, you typically will ask something like, hey, based on everything that you've heard right now, if you would have to, from 1 to 10, how likely are you going ahead and going to progress here, with everything that we discussed here? And imagine they would say something like 7 or 8. You can immediately say, how could we make this a 10? Immediately on the call. What's missing for you to feel like this is a 10 out of 10, we should be going ahead, right? Because when you're asking a person for a number on the probability, essentially, for us to be doing business together, right? And if there's a gap, sometimes the gap is like 50%. You're like, damn, something's totally missing here, and you want to figure out how do you close that gap immediately from a sort of from a numbers perspective, right? Because whatever the delta is, you want to close that, right? So as much as you can. That's another thing that I highly recommend to a lot of businesses. But fun fact, we have not implemented that. And then the last thing. Actually, there's a couple of things. One thing is I always say, hey, can we keep in touch? So this is specifically maybe in more enterprise selling world, where once you have the prospect, essentially mobile numbers, and you ask them nicely at the end of the call to keep in touch, either on WhatsApp, that's one way to keep in touch, or the second approach, actually, can we hook up together in Slack? That's another thing that, for example, we do. When we sense that it's a priority account on our end, by default, we create a Slack channel with the business. And fun fact, you can create up to 1,000 Slack channels with other businesses if they do use Slack. So if you find that most of the times, the other business also has Slack, then if you hook up together and create a mutual channel, and you do that proactively at the end of the call, you will see that the close rate is going to go up, because once you involve other members from your team in the Slack channel, and they would do the same thing, right? Then specifically, I would say in enterprise sales environment, the deal probability getting to a close one is much, much, much higher. And then the last thing was something else I had in my mind.
Regarding pulse check, this was a very good point, by the way. Like from 1 to 10, where are you right now? If they say 7, never pitch the price. If they said 8 and above, pitch the price. So if you see you have like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and this happens so many times, I see like business owners like 5 minutes before the call, they said 6, they still pitch the price. Don't do that. Just put the follow-up call. If you see like, okay, it's really tight, put the follow-up call and say, hey, typically, like, I just need to think about the price, and let's have a follow-up call after that.
And I remember the final thing that I always typically say, it's like a default kind of thing that I would say to anybody, is always book in a follow-up call by default. Doesn't matter how big the deal size is. If you're actually doing a demo, so as in you have some form of a sales-led process, and you have this sort of kind of I'm doing a demo, and if you're a sales rep and you have a quota, like by default, you're suggesting a follow-up call. Hey, can we just catch up, in a week's time?
Yeah.
And because having many follow-up calls is actually good for you. Just think about it. And it just increases massively your probability to close, because sometimes in a follow-up call, they may want to, invite another person, or they maybe have some doubts, whatever, So having these follow-up calls can massively boost your close rate there. So this is just not a thing that you could honestly just automate. And then the other thing I like to automate, maybe at this step, is specifically when people actually do not attend the meeting with you. So then I have a voice AI agent that goes and actually calls you nonstop and say, hey, we were meant to have a call on this date at this time, but you didn't turn up. Can we catch up at some point? So naturally, the human doesn't do that. That's an example of where we would implement an AI agent actually to make sure that more meetings, essentially, fewer no-shows kind of happen in the business, right? So. And this is, maybe specifically around the process. And this is an example of where I don't need human bodies to be chasing, right? I just have a system where there's essentially it says the meeting did not happen. Well, automatically the agent goes and hunts, kind of, So,
Yes.
so yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Just maybe anybody, so if anybody has any questions right now, I think the one question which was, kind of simple question: will there be recording after this? Yes, there will be recording on YouTube. You can watch. But if anybody has any questions around building out a stellar process, anything that you're seeing, please put down in the chat below, because we will be taking questions at the end. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What do you want to say?
I know we don't have a lot of time. I will go through really fast through this. So anything that you see in sales, like closing process, you can use the AI. You can take any of the transcripts of the calls that you have and analyze every single call, every single day. What we do, like it's non-negotiable every day after the day finish. You want to reflect and see where you made a mistake. Ask AI, hey, from 1 to 100, score this call and tell me where I am and what I need to do better next time. Save all the calls where you won the deal, and watch them every single day in the morning when you start your day. That will be helping you to keep your closing rate high. If you listen to those calls, you get back to that power and you feel empowered every morning, feeling that, okay, I am on the top of the mountain. And this is very important. This is something AI cannot do. AI cannot impact your mood. And if your mood is really bad and you feel down and you feel like, oh, I don't want to take these calls today, then you will not be able to close them as well. So the first thing that you want to do in the morning, you want to increase that mood level to the 10 of the 10, be on top of the mountain and feel like, okay, I am best sales rep in the world, or I'm best entrepreneur in the world. You want to feel that way and watch all this call. And also one thing that helps a lot, watch testimonials of your clients. Watch every day and remind yourself what impact you are making. So if you don't have testimonials, work to have testimonials, work to have some results, and maybe like do something for free, but at least get some results for people. That will help you also a lot to find the meaning in what you do. Okay, that's one. And also the complete sales machine, how it works, just to ramp up for you. The first is foundation is like very, very important. When it comes to hiring and scaling, you need to identify the foundations. Then what will be the processing? Processing means it's in terms of like closing process, that how you're going to go up. And with the multi-channel approach, you will get all the leads and all the inputs into your system.
So maybe question here on the multi-channel. Is a multi-channel, do I just assume that it's just purely email, LinkedIn, and calling?
Email, LinkedIn, calling, content, all of that interconnected. Okay. Yeah, all of them. Mm-hmm. So you need to have something coming into machine, right? It's something that is keeping you alive, is input, which is appointments. The second is processing, how you process those appointments into closings. And the third is how you start scaling from that. Okay, and real client outcomes. We have a lot of clients who got like 10 times more leads with using this system, and 2 times more pipeline growth within the 90 days. We have one client who is very successful. His name is Rusbe from Munich. He generated $500,000 within the 3 months of time. We used a lot of your tools as well, by the way, I have to say. A lot of Salesforce, PrimeForge, etc. Yeah, and cutting the headcount, like that was one of the things where you start becoming the efficient. And what happened next? Building system was not a one-day process for me. Like it took me like patience, tasting. So be patient as well. Like lots of people I see, like they see it like a magic pill and they assume it will happen immediately. But it's actually not.
What's the rough time frame when you're building any system out in any business, whether it's an agency or not? Like what is a typical time frame you would say?
Yeah, for our clients, we build it within the 2 weeks of time, and they start booking appointments from day 2, 3 already. But if they do it themselves, it typically takes them 2-3 months of time until they understand everything and set up everything.
What would you say is the main reasoning for this? Why a business internally is slower than an external party?
Because they need to understand a lot of things, make it work. So if they want to set up the clay system, we can give them template of clay table, but they will not be able to connect with API tools and bring all together and understand how it works, right? We have even like videos, like 3 hours or something like that, explaining every single step, but people still struggle. They watch it maybe like 2-3 weeks and try to understand how it works, the entire thing. So that's exactly why we took the entire process on ourselves. We implemented for them, and then they slowly learn because they have time. Like, I mean, they will get appointments, but they can slowly learn and understand how to create all these campaigns and everything. And there is a lot of complexity. Yeah. So that's why you need to be very patient. And the result, like what happened to me as well, I was very patient with this system too. It took me like multiple months to implement. I no longer worried about where the next client coming from, because I knew exactly this system is just, if we might maintain this system, we will book 20, 30, 40 appointments every week. And that's exactly what we run right now. And the business run through a structure, like not the stress. So stress coming from not having the structure. So if you have the clear process, clear structure, you will not be stressed, even if you 10x the business or 20x the business. So
I'm still stressed, Sabir. You know why I'm stressed? Because I generate over 500 demos a month, and I'm trying to get to 1,000 per month. I'm stressed trying to figure out what are the more layers that I can add to the system to get to 1,000 demos. So you have a different stress. The stress of having no meetings or poor system. That's one stress, and then there's other stress. You're like, oh, I want to do more. And then you're like you. This is where you have to definitely start pushing the boundaries. But it's just another challenge, that you're kind of going through. Once you solve I call these, I don't know, I wouldn't call these baby steps, but there's definitely this, a transformation that every business has to do, and most businesses still haven't done that, right? So there's a lot still to do here. But once you get to this sort of efficiency level, then you start like, oh, I want to have more layers of efficiency, right? So that's where my head is at right now. So trying to do all crazy things on top of what I call the baseline, which is what we're talking about here. So yeah.
Yes. And there are different ways of scaling. Like mainly when we use scaling, let's say you want to go from 500 to 1,000, there are different ways to get there. Either increasing the volume. I am sure you do all of that. Either increasing the number of sales reps that you have, or better tools.
I try to avoid that as much as I can. I'm more into sort of, let's call it, upgrading the system. So like it's all about system building, right? In my opinion, these days, it's not about the humans is what I call the last resort, or the necessary evil, what I call as an input. But I'm always trying to think from a lens of like, what are the additional layers that I can add to my system that doesn't necessarily require a headcount increase, And so I'm thinking from like multiple different sort of lenses, from adding multiple extra channels on top of that to I think it's typically channels or unlocking new markets, really. So I have the system for this market, but in that market, currently I'm doing like nothing, and I'm trying to figure out why am I not shopping in this market. And I'm thinking from a standpoint of like, is it the language? So for example, we're currently entering the Brazilian market, and I don't have a Portuguese speaker, honestly. And guess what? Half of Portuguese people don't speak English. So you have definitely a language problem. But that's like easy to solve. I just hire a rep, so I'm currently hiring. So if anybody, speaks Portuguese, feel free to apply. But yeah, I'm looking at these sort of onion sort of layers, on top of that. But like headcount is definitely for me is the last resort, the necessary evil. But like the system first thinking, or agentic first, or AI first thinking, is what actually drives the outputs and efficiencies. And that's ultimately what how it keeps the business efficient and profitable.
For sure, for appointment booking, like you can use just systems. One thing that is not replaceable right now is cold callers. I don't know if you use any cold callers, Frank, but when you start using cold calling as well, you can get a lot of inputs, but not necessarily, because in your case, I think the best thing is just adding more channels, and entering the new market is one of the best strategies for you to grow, instead of just hiring 10 cold callers.
The problem with cold calling is that agentic cold calling is illegal in most parts of the world. So Europe and US, right, the juiciest markets. So like I think the only kind of growth hack there is if somebody's thinking about how do you implement agentic cold calling, is you can figure out ways of how to get the consent from the user through a lead magnet, either on a meta ad or somewhere else, where they consent to be contacted by you, but they get the they get the resource, and so that consent will then allow you, let's say if you just get an email address, you can reach that with a mobile number, and off you go. You can spin up your agentic systems. So that's the only way I thought about it. But yeah, there's other places where humans are sort of irreplaceable, trade shows or events, and then also social selling on LinkedIn, right? So sure, you can use AI, etc., but like ultimately people follow people, essentially, right? So they don't follow agents, not yet at least. And even though it does exist on Instagram there's a lot of these AI avatars, whatever you call them, synthetic profiles. They have like hundreds of thousands of followers, but yeah, you don't see that on LinkedIn. LinkedIn aggressively bans any fake accounts and stuff like that. So and that's where I see definitely value in humans, but like anything that has to do with sort of copywriting and executing a LinkedIn message to email, I struggle to see why a human. We're generalizing, right? Why a human would outperform an agentic system. But I always a big believer that an A player, which is very rare in sales, an A player will outperform anything out there, because an A player just thinks far beyond an agentic system. But best case, what you typically hire in a business is a B player, and I think agentic systems can operate as well, or maybe slightly better than a B player, but does not necessarily outcompete an A player, right, in the system.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it makes no sense to add people if you can automate things, right? Like first automate if you see there is like you are on plateau, then it makes sense to add if you see the only way is like growing is adding people. Right? But I agree with all the points. It's for sure like very insightful. Like this transformation went through me as well. You know, like when I started doing it, like I was alone, stressed out. And once you have the team responsible for different topics, everything's starting changing, you know. And that's why like connecting those systems and also the team is one of the very important topics as well that helped me a lot. And if you have been struggling with that, you know, you try to do random tactics instead of building a real system and chasing manually people on Instagram or on LinkedIn or different channels. So you are relying on effort, not the structure, so not the systems. Okay, and we have these examples with one of our clients who generated over $500,000 within the 3 months of time, and they shortened their sales cycles with this playbook that I just gave you. Literally, like they started getting more appointments. They were booking like 2 appointments a month. And sorry, any questions?
No. I think there was just a bit of a lag on your end.
Oh, okay. I don't know what is that, but yeah, they were booking like around 2 appointments a month approximately. It was really hard for them to get more appointments, and they started booking like 20 appointments on a weekly basis consistently. No, so that system, they sell AI systems for manufacturing companies, like really big companies as well. So that was the system. Like there is old way and new way of doing sales, and in the new way you can see a lot of agents. One agent can do market research, find all the leads, and identify if they are a good fit for you, for your company, which you can literally give the input saying, okay, these are the criteria I want to have for every lead you are researching, and AI can do the heavy lifting for you. AI can find also the buying signals, finding like who is potentially interested in your services. So this is something on the web, like let's say somebody was looking for something or somebody liked a specific post about specific topic. Those are the typical buying signals. And I know one of our clients, his name is Kuram, he's from UK, and he's running like a agency helping with Salesforce. So he called just 10 people with the buying intent, and he booked 4 appointments. It's so powerful, like it's just like crazy. If you start using those buying signals, you will see people are very interested, and immediately you say, how interesting is this topic? They say, oh, this is something I'm looking for right now. Okay, let's have a meeting, and then it's a very quick fix. You know, so he was able
what
to
I'm doing right now, I'm de-anonymizing website users that are on the pricing page that did not sign up. And then I'm enriching that with a mobile number. So you need to have US traffic for that. It's only available in the US. And then we would call them up, you know. So that's what we do right now.
Yes, that's a very good strategy, I have to say, because they are very hot, right? Like they are thinking like, should I buy, should I not buy? That stage is very close to the
closing. They didn't sign up, you know, and they left. I want to follow up with them, you know. So that's what I want to do.
Awesome. It can be automated too, by the way. You're automated, right? You're automating that?
No, that one, I mean, because, you know, I don't have an opt-in, so I'm not risking the, you know, from a compliance standpoint. I would actually manually call. Yeah, like, you know, we're very strict on that front. Only if you have the consent, as in only if they actually signed up, then we would use autonomous systems. If they did not sign up, we use humans. So yeah.
Got it. Generally speaking, with this AI system, you can give AI different tasks like data scraping, enrichment, email automation, LinkedIn automation, right? Automated call dialer is very powerful too. Like calling people not manually, but with the power dialer. There is also AI power dialer that finds out when people potentially can answer your calls. And that system we are using right now, we went from calling like 200 people in entire day, like one person calls 200 people the whole day manually, typing their number, calling them, researching them. Now, with the help of this power dialer, we call up to 500 people a day. like having 50, 60 conversations a day. This is also very, very powerful to use. And the last thing is multi-channel outreach, lead scoring system, like score every single lead. Like, did they click on the email? Did they reply back fast? Did they say it's priority? And score that lead to prioritize that in your system, because most of the deals are closed actually not from the leads itself, like generally, but it's closed mostly by identifying who is hot lead, who is cold warmer lead, and then deciding where you want to put most of your attention. And there are lots of examples like that. Like, we have also one of our clients, in a couple of weeks they started getting already like 15, 20 appointments with this system and start closing first deals within the first 4 weeks. And we were working exactly with the same strategies for them, implementing with lead magnets, with getting people to the freebies, and also with the outbound strategies. It's a very small startup, by the way, from Denmark, and they got very first fresh results. They were struggling really long time to get any kind of clients. So we helped them. We have one Meta agency who generated like 100 millions with Meta ads. We can see like this here with the Russell Brunson event. And we started working with them, and they tried long time to make outbound work. It never worked for them. And you know what happened? Like, their Meta experts, they say, like, before joining to our program, they said, like, Sabir, I don't believe ever you will have a system better than Meta for us. And after like 2-3 months, they said, lead price is way better with the outbound. Like, maybe I should reduce the ad spend and just focus more on outbound. No, so that was very insightful with Derek from US. And one thing I noticed with all these entrepreneurs that I started working, like, they relied on referrals, word of mouth in the beginning. Except that agency that we had, they had few clients but not predictable way of getting ones. So that agency was one of them. Like, they had some clients, but predictable way of getting clients was really hard. And they didn't have a real client generation machine. So it was just maybe like a little bit of referrals and word of mouth. So, but it shouldn't be that way, because I kept asking myself all the time when I was struggling as well, how can I build a system that helps companies to scale easily, something they can just plug in and watch grow? And that's the system that we are using exactly for our clients as well. And if you have any questions, and if you want to have a conversation more in detail, like, we can talk exactly. We offer, by the way, only for this event, Frank, for your audience, for all people here who are live, can just take this screenshot or just go directly to the page. I think we have 5 or 6 slots available right now, as we are overbooked for the next weeks. But if you see any slots, you can just book it, and we can discuss this strategy with you, how to implement the same strategies for your business. So if you are typically an entrepreneur making 10, 20K, but you want to get to 100K and above, this is ideal for you. If you get already some of the results and you want to grow even more, and want to implement for your team, that's ideal. But if you're just a sales rep, you work in the company, the best way would be maybe like reaching out to more of the manager positions who are interested to buying these kind of systems. And that's basically it. Thanks, Frank. I'll just stop it here.
Yes. Great stuff. I know we're running a bit. We have a few questions here, and I'm just gonna look at across YouTube right now, X and etc. what we're getting. But let's just maybe just take one, because I know unless somebody has a very burning question, feel free to put it in the chat. But I'll take it one question, and maybe there'll be another one that I can take as well. So we got a question from Luca. What is a good target talk to listen ratio in your experience? And it was specifically in the slide when you talk about the closing framework. What would you say that is?
Target talk to listen ratio. Always, you need to talk less than your prospect, always. So if I want to know if sales rep is good, I just tell them, can you send me your Fathom calls or something? Then you can see the percentage of the conversation. So if they talk more than 50%, it's not a good sales rep.
The way that I typically like to qualify people is what questions did they ask me, actually. So if somebody says, Franco, how do you think that interview went? As like, well, it was to me, it's all about the really good questions that you asked me, actually, rather than the questions that I asked you. I really like to figure out the curiosity level, essentially, that the person has, with the business, For example, in sales, right, they're trying to figure out how does the commission work? What are the typical close loss reasons or close won reasons? Who are the typical competitors, And so they ask, a lot of good questions. So when you ask good questions, you're more likely to get the job, at least here at Salesforce. So, yeah.
100%.
Yeah, so there's few other questions around slides as well. Yes, you will get the slides. Guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. We'll follow up later on. We just, unfortunately, over time, because we have a lot of good content here. Sabir, how can people find you on the internet these days?
LinkedIn is like literally lots of people reach out on LinkedIn, but the best way is with this QR code if they want to talk to me. But other than that, we have YouTube channel. You can subscribe for videos because we share a lot of free content as well, like just sharing the strategies, or on LinkedIn as well, some topics like a little bit deep dive on different topics in sales.
Gotcha. Fantastic. Appreciate your time. Yeah.
Instagram as well. Yeah.
Instagram as well. Ooh, yes. I'm actually not on there, fun fact. I don't have time for all the platforms. I'll try to just keep it to LinkedIn these days. But yeah, appreciate your time, Sabir. I'm sure people will be reaching out to you, whether that's through the QR code, LinkedIn, etc. Thanks for having all of us here and listening, and see you around, guys. See you till next time. Cheerio.
Yeah. See you. Thanks, Frank. Bye-bye.